Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Second Act Actors. I'm your host, Dr. Janet McMorty, and I'm still a medical doctor simultaneously trying to pursue a career in acting. My guest this week is Andromeda Godfrey. Andromeda started her career in the entertainment industry around the age of 40. Before that, she was a photographer, makeup artist, baker, and mom. Obviously, she is still a mom, but she is now pursuing a career in acting. She does some writing, she makes films, she does a lot of incredible stuff. She was in Bridgerton, everybody. Bridgerton. So cool. We talk about it in this episode. We're now allowed to talk about it and say that it is called Bridgerton that she's in. But during the episode, I don't think the season had come out yet, so it is unnamed show that we talk about during this episode, but it is just so cool. She has an incredible story. Please enjoy Andromeda Godfrey. How did you get into this crazy business of ours?
Crazy is the right way to put it. How did I get into this business? Well, I always knew that I wanted to be an actor. Well, not always. I was 6 when I first saw my stepmom in a TV show. She woke me up one night and brought me downstairs to the old black and white TVs back in the day, and she pointed the TV and she goes, "There I am," and I was like, "Huh?" Just like looking at her, looking at the TV, not kind of computing. And I thought, you can do that. That you can actually. That's a job. Okay, that's fun. And I kind of had it in my mind and very focused until I was about 14, and I had just written to RADA in the UK and said, "Oh, I'd love to come to your school." And they wrote me back a letter all the way to Hawaii, where I was living at the time, saying, "We're so sorry that we don't take people until they're 18. Come back then." And so I was really focused. And then 14, like, I guess puberty hit, hormones, crushing, no confidence, just like something happened, a big shift happened. And I started to pack that dream away. And then I went to university and did photography. So I was behind the camera. and then after university, I had children, and quite young. And then I had more children. And it got to the point where I was 38, and I said to my husband, my ex-husband now, but I said, "I've really got to give this a shot. This is my dream. I have got to do it." And he's like, "Yeah, that's a great idea." And then I got pregnant again. It's like all these life things getting in the way. And I had such crushing, like, morning sickness, which I hadn't had with the first two. And so I literally was on the sofa for like 3 or 4 months, just like eating saltine crackers and drinking ginger ale. So I couldn't even like start the kind of the first steps towards becoming an actor. So I became a baker, as you do. And then when my youngest was 3, I went, okay, now is the time. It has to be. And I've been acting ever since.
Oh, I love that story. It's so interesting to hear from somebody who is technically the second act actor, right? But who had a childhood where they were exposed to the creative arts. Like you were saying, even that formative experience seeing a family member on TV, or so many people I talk to, it's the opposite. It's the like, no, that's not a logical career path. That's for special people. That's for talented people, right? Did you ever feel that, or was it really a lovely push to be creative, to do acting?
My family, we are creatives. We're artists, we're writers. There's just a lot of us are creatives. So it was never a question of, oh, that's not the right career path for you to be choosing. It was always really kind of Yay, go for it, do it. My mom is my biggest cheerleader. She's my biggest fan. She is, yeah, no, I've been really lucky in that respect. It was just my own self-doubt really getting in the way.
Mm-hmm. Where do you think that came from? Was it society around you, or just what? Where do you think that came from?
Yeah, I think it's probably a combination of factors. I went to a school where, funnily enough, the creative arts weren't really kind of like in the spotlight. It was more a
Mm,
sporty school. It was
mm,
sporty and academic. So kind of like my academic, I wasn't that great at academics. I was like, C, B student. And, but I was good at sports. So I kind of just channeled my stuff into there. And we had a couple of plays a year, maybe one play a year, but nothing really very organized. And I did try out in my senior year. I tried out for a play, and I tried out for the lead, and they told me, no, we're sorry, we didn't give you the lead because, but it doesn't matter because you've got 2 or 3 more years to get the lead. And I was like, I'm a senior. And they're like, oh. I always looked really, I looked like this little chubby faced young girl. And I think that was, I think I started to feel the rejection quite pointedly,
mm.
at that time in my life when you're kind of young and you're impressionable and you're sensitive. So like the rejection really hit me hard. Now I'm just resilient and tough and toughened and
I like that. I usually say I'm like, now I'm jaded and bitter, but I like tough and resilient better. That's super interesting. Do you think, and I'm going to kind of put myself in an assumption here, because I know just my own self and who I was back when I was a 14-year-old, 15-year-old
yeah.
human. If I had started acting then, again, I think a lot of people are like this. There's no way I would still be acting now because of that rejection. And I just didn't know how to cope with that. And it's no fault of anyone's, right? It's not like I had parental trauma or anything like that. But I wonder if, like, was that the same for you? Do you think, like, if you had really gone gung-ho into acting, do you think you'd still be doing it now?
Either I would be, and maybe I would be, but I would think I would be. I don't think I then had the ability to deal with what a big career would have looked like
Mm-hmm.
as a young person. I was just like, like all over the place. I don't think I had. I wasn't that kind of like, I'm going to be an actor no matter what, and I will make this happen. Like some actors I know, that's what they've done from a very young age, and they've weathered it. I don't think I would have weathered it very well. I think I'm
Interesting.
much better coming into it this age with the wisdom I have.
Yes. And it's interesting to have chosen the career path that you did, photography and then baking. Very kind of, and again, another assumption that I'm throwing at you, like you were saying, behind the camera, very not forward facing to the public, a bit more in service to.
Yeah.
Um, what drew you towards those career paths as opposed to acting, which I'm just gonna say it kind of is a little bit of a flip opposite.
Yeah. I think it was really a knee-jerk reaction to this desire to wanting to be an actor. So what can I do that's the exact opposite? Okay, I'll go
Mm-hmm.
behind the camera. And I've, like I said, I came from a very arty family. One of my sister paints, and she's an amazing painter. I was like, what could I do that's not to do with painting because I'm not very good at that. So get behind the camera and use the camera as my medium, and I loved it. I still think that it serves me well now, knowing framing, knowing lighting. The things that I learned um, with that part of my life. But the funny thing is I never really took it up after university. I was
Mm.
like, forget that. I just went out raving. I went out raving, and then for like a year, and as like my kind of my gap year, kind of my gap year was spent on the dance floor. And then I had kids, and then I kind of I had kids, and then I had lots of part-time jobs. So I was kind of like this master of all trades, kind of like
Mm.
um, I loved one of my jobs that I absolutely loved was working on the makeup counter in department stores in London. So like at Selfridges, I did people's makeup, and it was wonderful. It was such a joy to help another person feel beautiful about themselves. It was yeah, I really loved it. Um, and and then kind of the baking happened. I guess the baking was a creative outlet,
Yeah.
because I love being creative, but it's not really a long-term business opportunity unless you're so in love with it and love the hours and love the intensity. And so it wasn't a very long-winded career. It only lasted like a year or two, and yeah.
Well, it's interesting to think about the careers that you've had, and this is a discovery that I've had in the last, well, since I started acting, but also a vein that has traveled through a lot of the people I've talked to who are creatives in their first act and then flipped into acting. Was something that's so unique to acting, I find, is that the rejection is so personal because there isn't a barrier in between you and your art like there is with photography. You got the camera. With
Mm,
woodworking, you have like the chair I built, the painting I made, the cake I baked, right? If people don't like that, that's fine because it's not a reflection on me they don't like. It's like the chair they didn't like that I built them or the picture I took. But as soon as somebody says, I don't like the way you act, like that, no, that's my soul, right? You're just like, yeah.
it's like being stabbed in the heart.
Right? Like, how
Yeah.
do you go from careers where you have, and I think honestly, literally every career I can think of except for acting has this barrier.
Yeah.
How do you go from careers that have a bit of a defensive wall you can put up to one where you literally cannot?
Yeah, I think it takes a lot. It took me a long time to get to build up. It's sort of like an armor, I guess,
Mm,
an armor to people's perceptions of what I create. Um, but I can't say that it's completely impenetrable because I still feel it. I still feel the sometimes with certain jobs I still feel the rejection of not being, even though I know, as an actor, and plus I'm a producer as well, so I know what it's like from behind the scenes. I know the casting process. I know that quite often it's already been cast even before you get into the room. Or number two, it's you don't look enough like the child they just hired to play your potential daughter. There are so many factors. Or there's too many blondes in the cast. There's a myriad of reasons. You could be the best actor in there,
yeah.
but it doesn't necessarily equate to getting the booking the job.
And I think that's such a learning process because it's so unart, right? It's
Yes.
it's it's very logical and
Yeah.
reasonable from a business standpoint, but all of
Yeah.
us artists are like, no, my art is the best. Like,
Yeah.
it's the art. You're like, no, this is a business.
Yeah.
Like, dang it. Is there anything that you've noticed from the careers you've had, and I'm putting motherhood in there,
hmm
that you've brought into now your career in acting?
well, I've definitely brought all of my myriad of experience. I've got lifetimes of experience with parenting and working in all these kind of different jobs that I've worked at in front of house and in offices, and so I bring all of that with me. um, and quite often, more than not, I'm booked to be the mother, play the mother. So there's a lot of that comes with me. The raising children teaches you so much about life, and I'm able to, it translates in my work, I think.
That's lovely. Yeah. It's so interesting. I've talked to a couple, when I say, like, what was your first act? And they say, Mom. And it's incredible what you bring in to now acting. And the first thing they all say is now, because we're all, I think, that same vintage of, a little over 40-year-old white female, we're going to be
Yeah.
cast as the mom role. It's not only do you bring in the sensation of, I know exactly what it's like to be a mom, but I know exactly what it's like to like live in the world, but also see the world through the eyes of another. Can I catch my drift,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I
Totally.
love
I
that.
get
I
that.
love that.
Yeah.
Has there been anything that has surprised you about the entertainment industry entering into it?
Um, I think when I first started, I had people telling me, I had people giving me advice, and they were telling me things like, "Oh, you're 40. Um, if a casting director doesn't know who you are by the time you're 40, then you don't stand a shot." And I was like, "What? Okay." And now there's a certain amount of stuff where I was listening to this advice, and I think I'm surprised by. I think casting directors that I think they do go back to their quite often go back to the people that they really trust and they are quite known. So you, I had to. I've had to spend a lot of time nourishing my relationships with casting directors. But once you have that kind of that relationship with them where you can write to them and they know who you are and you get responses back, which is always really nice. Um, I think the thing that surprises me most is that casting directors really want you to book the job. They really they want you to succeed. They're on your side. They're not against you. I think I had this vision of them as being the gatekeepers, and I can't. I gave them so much power. I gave. It's like if I don't get past them, then I won't be seen. But I think they're actually in our corner and they're rooting for us. And when you've got the really good relationships with them, just keep on nurturing them. Keep on nurturing them.
How do you go about building those relationships when, like you said, we don't come at this with 40 years of build?
Yeah.
How do you do that without seeming, again, I always fear, it's that hard balance of, I'm not crazy. I'm a nice person who just wants to act. And I don't want anything from you except a career. Like, how do you go about nourishing and building a relationship in a healthy, non-clingy way?
I don't send out too many emails. I keep the emails quite limited. Um, I when I have something to share, if I've got a show that's a TV show that's come out or something like that, then I will write to my kind of like my core group, and I'll send them all a personal email. So you're not kind of copying. Well, I do, the chunky bit in the middle, I do copy and paste, but I'll always make it personal to them. And I just follow that up with, and I just make it very, very, the emails very short, very concise, very, they don't have very much time. And then when something else comes up, at the end of the year, I usually write to all the people who have seen me and say, thank you so much for seeing me for this. Happy New Year, blah, blah, blah. I think it's minimal, but the stuff that I do send out, I try to make it so that it's something that they can hook onto, something about me that I'm showing that I'm being proactive and moving my career along.
A big thing that I've heard as well too is not asking for stuff, which seems very obvious. But I think what I'm learning now is that from chatting with casting directors, so much of the correspondence and communication they get, not just from actors, but just from everyone, is I want something from you. I want, what can you give me? Yeah. And when they get something that's either says thank you or I don't want anything from you, just showing you what I'm doing, they say is like a breath of fresh air. And in Canada, where I am, there aren't many casting directors. So they get overwhelmed with, people being like, how do I get an audition? But when they get someone who's like, thank you, I appreciate this, the end.
Yeah.
It's
one of my best tricks is, it's not even a trick because I do feel it comes from my heart, is, for example, I fell in love with this TV show on Netflix, and I already had a relationship with the casting director. So I wrote to the casting director and I said, "Oh my God, this show, it's amazing. The chemistry between the actors is incredible. I loved it. Thank you, just thank you for your work you do." And I got the most sweetest letter back from them. And then 2 weeks later, I got an audition for this season 2 of the show.
oh,
So it's like, write to them telling them how great you think they are and how much you love that show they just cast.
well,
And it's not asking for anything, but it's just it's also reminding them of you. You're still here.
and if I flip and put myself in their shoes, if I, as a human being on this planet, got an email saying that, I'd be like,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
who doesn't want that?
Exactly. They're
Yeah.
they're big, huge time casting directors, but they
Yes.
still want to have the validation, the appreciation.
Yeah. And I think you hit the nail on the head with a lot of us, I find, because they are the gatekeepers, but we elevate them to like godlike
Yeah.
status and say, "Oh, I can't email them," or
Yeah.
"I'll email them if I want something." Oh, they're but no, they're humans just like us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who need that validation that they're doing a good job.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we all get that imposter syndrome regardless of how long we've been in this industry.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
for sure.
Mm.
You mentioned you are a producer as well.
I am.
How did that happen?
It happened all at the same time as the acting.
Nice.
So I was like a year into my acting career, and I have one of my best friends who I went to school with in Hawaii. We met when we were 13. She's a writer and I'm an actor, and we got together and went to the pub and had vodka and Red Bulls and got really kind of like talking about filmmaking, and then we were like, why don't we make a film? And so we started a production company. We made our first short film. She wrote it and I acted in it. I starred in it. I still love that movie. I mean, it's so fun. And that must be about 15 years ago now, which is kind of crazy. And then we went on to make about 3 more short films, one of which was called Dream Date, and it just kind of exploded onto the film festival landscape. Did really, really well and gave us kind of a taste for like, ooh, this is fun. Like this. And then we decided to do our first feature. And it was released a few years ago now. And we released it it's called 2 Hours, and released it in the States, Canada. I think you can see it in Canada on Amazon Prime.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I'll link it in the show notes.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
It's a really fun family adventure, really cute story. And now we're working on our second feature.
How do you learn this when you don't have a film or theater background? How did you learn
On the
all of
job.
it?
On the job as we went along. Literally making every mistake that you could possibly make, and just getting up the next day and making more mistakes, but just getting to the end. It's independent filmmaking, I think, personally, from my own experience, is a thankless job. It's labor intensive, it's time intensive, with very little pay. It's a little bit crushing, soul crushing, I think. So we are working on our next film, but I think we're going in with much more wide open eyes this next time around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting, I think, with so many people. I mean, we're told, make your own content. But then there's a huge fear about that, especially from people who don't have training in how to do it. Because, in most careers, the mistakes, quote, quote, you are devastating. Like, I think about I'm a doctor. I can't make mistakes.
You can't make mistakes.
but to the detriment of other things in my life, and I've talked to a lawyer who felt the same way. He's like, I put a comma instead of a period. That costs like my company thousands upon millions of dollars. Like, I can't make mistakes. So
Yeah.
there's this fear globally in our lives of, quote, making a mistake, even though that's how we learn, especially in the film world.
Yeah.
How do you, like, did it come from, do you think, again, that creative upbringing you had? How do you kind of say, hey, these mistakes aren't the end of the world, let's keep going?
Well, I am resilient,
Mhm.
and I do. I'm quite a determined person, so when I say I'm going to do something, I'd like to follow it through. Um, so I think it is really a matter of getting up and just doing it over again. I went to this really great panel talk with this guy who was a producer, and he had a pot of millions to play with, millions to play with. You know, lots of feature films that we all know come out of this pot of millions. And I said, you know, I'm making my first feature film. Quite often, I just feel like I'm winging it. And he goes, same here. You know, I feel like I'm winging it every single day. And I guess maybe in the creative arts, maybe in independent filmmaking, there is a bit more leeway for making mistakes. And also, you know, we had, for the feature film, we had a really fantastic line producer who had made so many feature films, and she really did show us that part of the producing is putting out fires every single day, and showed us how to proactively not over sensationalize problems, but just to proactively keep it quiet and solve it,
Yeah.
which was a really great skill. I think a great skill in life.
Yeah. Totally. Well, and it's funny, I think about, like, I jokingly with my dad, we had this motto, and it's work the problem. And it comes from NASA, where, like, you have a problem and it's very, very significant to, like, the lives of many people in space, for
Yeah.
example. Work the problem and use people around you to work the problem. Exactly what you're saying as well too, right? Like, we all are kind of winging it,
Yeah.
but you work through it.
Yeah.
And not, yeah. And I think, does the resiliency, again, did that come from, I always harp on people's childhoods like I'm some sort of therapist, but it's just, I'm always so curious where resiliency and where grit and determination comes from.
Yeah. I think it's kind of, I think I was born with it.
Mm,
Yeah. I think
yeah.
that I was kind of born, I was always kind of also, another thing is, when I was a small child, I lived up in the Orkney Islands, up in north of Scotland. My parents moved there when I was about a year, and they were hippies, real proper 19. Must have been 1970 or something like that, and moved up there with a group of other hippies and kind of lived on these little pieces on houses that were not like a commune, but kind of like spread out. And so I was dressed in real hippie clothes. And I came to school with a basket full of vegetarian food. You know, we didn't have school meals, you know, and so I was just like so much the outcast. You know, I was very, very much seen as, I was very much othered. And teased, and, you know, not so much bullied, but definitely teased. And I think that has a bearing on it. You know, you can't. I think I needed to have some resilience to get through that period of my life. Yeah.
Totally, absolutely. Do you have any advice for people looking to, I was like, build resiliency, but to dive into a career in acting later on in life?
Number one, if you really want to do it, just do it. Just figure out a way to get yourself, figure out a way to find people. Like, I mean, it's like what we were talking about earlier about this thing of making our own work. But if you can, find some actors and get together and write a little sketch and shoot it on your iPhone. There's so many ways that we can do things now. And find a great acting class, one that really kind of helps you grow as a human as well as an actor. I went to, when I kind of first started out, I went to, I think I have it in Canada as well, Anthony Mindell
Yes.
Actors Workshop. Yeah.
Yep.
So I thought that was great for me as a person who didn't even really know if I could act. I was like, okay, I want to be an actor, but can I actually act? And that kind of helped me unact, I think, kind of get out of acting and in quotes and into just responding and reacting to what the other person is giving you. Find a good class, find an improv class, get amongst people who are doing it. And then, once you've got something on a tape, look for an agent. I mean, that's how I did it.
Yeah. And I think, I was about to say, I think as we get older, we need to be that, but I think the logistics of it need to be said.
Yeah.
And I think it's so true what you said about can I even act, right? I think there's a lot of people who are like, I want to be an actor.
Yeah.
Period. And you're like, no, but there's the steps, right?
Yeah.
I think so much of it, again, we're talking about how it's the art. It's all about the art. No, there is a business and logistical side to this if you want there to be. I mean, if you don't, that's great. I have lots of people I talk to, all they want is community theater and they just love it. Wonderful.
Yeah.
But if you want to business this, you need to do the logistical work.
Yes, you need the logistical work. And I think you also need bucket loads of patience. Because I've been acting for 15 years or something like that. And then, but it was only a couple of years ago that I got my first, streaming job. So before that, it was lots of short films, lots of indie, a lot of indie horror films. Indie horror films, and those kind of cable TV shows, those kind of like what are they called when you like crime things that are kind of brought to life.
The reenactments.
Yeah, the reenactments.
We do a ton of those here. Yeah.
Yeah. So crime reenactments, and then it was only quite recently when I got this my agent that I have now, where I'm actually being seen for proper jobs and booking them. So not proper, nice. I shouldn't say proper jobs, because all the other ones were proper too for that phase of my career. They all were my stepping stones to getting to where I am now. Yeah.
Speaking of the projects you've done, do you have any favorite memories on set or any funny stories?
I do. I have from the same TV show. I'm not going to mention what TV show it is. But it's kind of like two sides to the coin. I had 2 episodes in this TV show, and one episode was the first episode that I shot was the most glorious day on set. It was just one scene, huge budget, huge, beautiful restaurant that we did the scene in. Great actors, amazing director. Writer was there and met us, and the cinematographer is just like this top-notch cinematographer. It was just like I was like having to pinch myself, going, "Oh my God, I can't believe this!" And then I'm like, they're saying, "Oh, just if we're in a dinner scene," and I like just ad lib stuff, and then they'd say, "Oh yeah, we like that, so just do that again the next time." I'm like, "Oh my God, my words are going to be on this TV show. The words that I said coming out of my mouth." Unfortunately, the scene ended up getting cut.
No. What?
And I knew that I was giving it my everything. I knew that it was. I was so in the moment, so grounded, so in this character, so happy to be there. And the director was lovely and wrote to us and said, "I'm so sorry, but we're going to have to cut this scene." So I didn't have to wait until it came out to see that I'd been cut.
Mhm.
And I could see why he cut it, because it didn't fit the episode at all.
Mhm.
Um, and then the other side to this is, the other episode I booked after that episode. I was like, oh my God, I'm getting brought back again. Yay. And so I get sent out the script, and they said, oh, you don't have to learn any of these lines. Oh, no, no. I said, oh, which lines do I have to learn? And then they said, oh, no, don't worry. You don't have to learn lines for this one. And I was like, but this is my character. And they're like, don't worry, don't worry. And so I show up, and I'm in the hotel the night before. That night in the hotel, I got a message saying, oh, yes, you do need to learn these lines. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I had learned some of them, just kind of like intuitively thought, this can't be right. Why would I not be knowing lines? So I learned some of them. And then I just spent the rest of the night and the next morning learning the other ones. But there was one line I could not get. It just didn't come out of my mouth correctly. And so we're on set, millions of pounds being spent on set, and the cameras are on us, and they're trying to figure out the kind of the how the camera should be positioned. And so it was great, because I was able to say the lines many, many times before the camera came onto me to do my singles. But I was getting really flustered, and I was so embarrassed. It was like my biggest nightmare. I have actually had nightmares where I don't know the lines. And yeah, they're horrible, aren't they? They're horrible. Yep. So this is it coming true. This is coming to life. And this one line just could not come out of my mouth right. And I wanted a hole to be dug in the ground, and I wanted to fall in it and not be seen by anybody ever again. And the script supervisor came up to me during one of the breaks and said, I think I know why you're having a hard time with this line. And he said, if you take the punctuation, the comma out of here, and you put a comma there, and then you put the full stop there, and make it 2 sentences, and I was like, oh my God, of course. And then it was just like, it was in my head. It just, the way it had been positioned, the commas just didn't flow out of my mouth, I think, because, anyway. So that was one of the most frightening experiences I've had. So on the same TV show, one of the best and one of the most frightening.
I think that's so interesting about script analysis and the ability, like, do you think, I don't know, like, if the script supervisor hadn't come up to you to say, like, let's change, is that something, I was going to say, will you'd ever feel empowered to figure out yourself? But my gut says, like, us in the beginning of our careers don't have the quote unquote clout yet to be like, hey, can I change this?
Yeah.
Because it's, who am I? My job is to come in and say, here's your coffee, sir, and then leave.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, how do you feel about that?
Well, I did actually say to the director, I said, this is not coming out. This is not coming out. And she said, it doesn't matter. You got to figure it out. And that's where I was at on the totem pole.
Fair point.
Yep.
No less awful, even more awful.
Even more awful, because I actually voiced it to the director. But you know what? As soon as I actually got it down, and she after at the end of the day, she was like, fantastic, that was great, amazing. So I got my validation at the end of it. So,
yes. The words of affirmation that we need as actors. Yes.
Yeah.
Do you have anything that you are looking forward to coming up?
I've got a movie coming out. When does this come out, by the way?
Good question.
Sometime next year.
Yeah, I haven't gotten my Q1 for 2024 all figured out yet, but I will.
Okay, so by the time this has come out, I've got a movie that is on Netflix, which and I played the mom to the lead in a movie called Love at First Sight, and it is it's a funny one to be talking about this because of the strike in the States. I'm like, should I be saying this? Should I not be saying it? But I think
let's talk about it. And if the strike's not over by the time, so what I've been messaging everybody who's involved, and most people are wanting to postpone their episodes till after the strike. So yeah,
Yeah.
let's talk about it and we can figure it out later. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. And also,
Mhm.
it's a funny one because I'm in the UK and we're not
Mhm.
striking.
Same with
Um,
Canada. Yeah.
yeah. So are you
Mhm.
guys talking about your work? Or are you guys being in
Yeah,
what?
so we were extremely impacted because so
Yeah.
many productions are what are called signatory productions. So they bring them up from the States to Canada, and it's all SAG-AFTRA, with like our union having like small roles, but
Yeah.
our union can't legally strike until the end of 2024.
Yeah. We can't legally strike either.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know if I think everyone's watching it pretty
Yeah.
closely. We Canadian, obviously, like pure Canadian content can still be made, as I'm assuming same in the UK, like pure
Yeah.
UK. But yeah, we're definitely doing the like solidarity type thing, and
Yeah.
there's no work.
Yeah.
There's
It's gone.
God. Yeah.
So hopefully, they'll be all over, and then we can talk about the film that I'm in. So the film is called, I think I said it's called Love at First Sight. It stars Haley Lou Richardson, who it was in the latest episode, latest season of The White Lotus. Um,
Yeah. Oh yes,
she
you
plays the
do look like her mom. Yes, you
Yeah,
do.
Vanessa Caswell,
Yeah.
the director of it, she sat down with us and she goes, "Didn't I do a great job of casting you?" And we were like,
Yes, you
"Yeah."
did.
We're like exactly the same height. We've got the same kind of body, except for mine's like 50 and hers is 20. Yeah, and she was so fun to work with. She's been doing it since she was a kid. She was one of those people who had that
Wow.
kind of determination. This is what I'm going to do, yeah, she's a real pro, really
See,
great working with her. Yeah, I really liked it. It was such a fun project.
that sounds like a rom-com.
It's a rom-com.
Fabulous.
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. Is it Christmas?
It actually, funnily enough, it is set around the Christmas period. It's coming
Mhm.
out in September, but it's set around that time of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We film a ton of those, whether it's Hallmark Channel or Netflix now doing it. We film a ton here in Canada. And everyone, I don't know if you get this in the UK, but it's not real acting and stuff or blah, blah. I'm like, are you kidding me? This is like, they film so fast. So, I don't know what your experience was. I've been on a couple, you barely get any takes because it's
Mm.
like so condensed and they churn out so many. It's like working on a soap opera
Ah,
where it's
yeah.
just fast, 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 fast
Yeah.
turnaround. It is, and there's such an art to what I think is could be really cheesy,
Mm.
but to the characters, this is their real life.
Yeah.
I love it. We call them movie of the week here in Canada, MOWs. Like the Hallmarky Christmas ones. I love them.
Oh God, yeah.
Mhm.
I do them. I do them.
Yeah.
I'm not too much of a snob when it comes to acting
Yeah.
work. I just love acting. I love
Yes.
it, and I love
Mhm.
bringing truth to whoever that character is, and
Yes.
giving those lines life. I love it. Yeah.
Where I sit in that world is I'm either the best friend of
Mm.
the lead. I'm slowly aging out of that. But now I'm more usually it's the male lead's sister with the cute, precocious toddler who's like,
Yeah.
that girl you were in love with in high school is coming back to our small town, right? I love it. I love it. There's so much joy in those films. It's just, I think they're fabulous. They're a
Yeah.
challenge.
Yeah.
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 Do you have any final words of advice or wisdom?
Uh, I'd say commit.
Hmm.
Commit to your plans, commit to your dreams, commit to the biggest dream that you have, and use that as your guiding star, and shoot, and always keep that vision clear in your head of where you would like to be and what you'd like to be working on, um, and give yourself a break if it's not happening
No.
to as according to the kind of plans that you had set. Give yourself a break. Be kind to yourself. This is a business where it can feel very disheartening, but be kind to yourself. And yeah, I think, I think that's it.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and thank you, Andromeda, for being my guest this week. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to share your incredible story with me and my audience. I hope you will all tune in next week for a very special first part of my Sundance Film Festival episodes. Bye!